Hello, welcome to Loremaster's Lair. I'm your Loremaster, here with another deity of the Inner Sea region. We'll be talking about big names next year, considering both a war of gods and a trip overseas. So, let's take the time today to talk about a deity who on the cosmic scale is relatively small potatoes. Gyronna, the Angry Hag, goddess of extortion, hatred, and spite. So, where can you find information about Gyronna to keep in your own little black book? As always, the two secrets of magic, one for both edition, is the first place to find more public information. Gyronna does not appear in any back matter, so those secrets would have been kept close if not for Inner Sea faiths. Slightly more is found in Faiths of Corruption, and her hunting ground is laid out in Plain Adventures. And as for the side tangents which are accompanying her, we find a little of those in Blood of Covens, 2nd edition's Ancestry Guide, Horror Adventures, and the 6th book of Reign of Winter's Adventure Path, titled The Witch Queen's Revenge. Gyronna is one whose true origins are unknown, and she works hard to curse any who would try to arrogantly find her origin. What whispers we do have, true or false, is that she was once a fey princess who crossed one of the eldest and was cursed with deformity and cast out. Other stories give us the same general origin, but with it originally being 3 sisters. But the deformities were so bad they needed to lean on each other and eventually grew into one. It is not often that Gyronna is seen depicted in full form. Usually it is only her infected eye, staring wide open in rage. The rare times Gyronna does make her own appearance, it is never a steady form, but one which shifts throughout the length of a conversation. First old and young, from beautiful to hideous, even something as simple as her mood changes without any seam of cause. The only consistency is that she is a woman, she is dressed in rags, and of course, the deformed eye which many claim is actually itself her true form. Another tale tells of Gyronna's rise as the Hag Queen, that when she first achieved godhood, she suddenly found herself supernaturally fertile, and birthed several children. The first 7 she ate, the next 7 she crushed under rocks, and all the rest she cast out. The one she ate would eventually burst from her chest, becoming the first night hags. The second 7 who were crushed were found by Pharasma, and became the first Mimitim psychopumps. And those that were cast out, well, they found themselves families who would, mostly, love and care for them, becoming the first changelings. However, as the world failed them time and time again, they would find their way back to their mother, who ripped the goodness from their souls and made them hags. Many of them being the first of individual species of hags. And that is how hags came into the world. Which brings us to our first side tangent. The part of the show where we love children, no matter where they come from. Today, the Changeling. Changelings are the daughters of hags and those destined to one day become hags. They appear as the ancestry of their mortal parent with but one eye different, the color of their mother's eye. But what makes a changeling is the feeling that, even in a completely loving environment, that they do not belong. This feeling can eventually grow to feelings of resentment against others, drawing one to the isolationism of a hag. It should be noted that, while it is stereotypical that all changelings are female, they're all male changelings. However, since hags wish to use the calling to transform their daughters into more hags, there is no need for the sons. and often many male changelings never realize their parentage and live normal lives. Among dwarfs, changelings find they have soft skin with never calluses, which is not good for blacksmithing, and usually find themselves walking away from home because of people watching them too closely. Among elves, they receive special training to resist the call, but their people saw at the loss of the original can drive them away. Among gnomes, well, they have slightly wider eyes, I guess. What does it even mean to be different among gnomes? Among halflings, changelings are sought after for many folk remedies, and they usually are driven away not from ostracism, but because they want to be left alone. Changeling goblins are revered and tend to grow taller, which is offset by the fact they tend to develop hunched backs. Gyronna's faith is made up of women, but not because it is a faith which empowers women. Gyronna demands the bitterness of the hearts of her chosen, and finds men's anger to be too clumsy, more intent on self-aggrandization than what she desires, and she tries to scare men away with threats of impotence. But still some men find their way to her. As for women, those outside the faith and even some inside the faith are as much a target of the curses of the cult as any others, especially the poor. It is entitlement which feeds the bitterness of her worshippers, and those without wealth, looks, or power often never sink so low to call for the Hag Queen's favor. But the best thing about having women worshippers is that the use of oppressive gender roles creates the perfect blind spot for them to perfect their faith. Order and hierarchy stand for everything Gyronna despises, and so her followers are organized in small cults instead. The faith is roughly divided into rural and urban sects. Urban worship, that entails a double life of a middle class or higher class woman by day, and one spinning curses in secret by night. The rural sects, on the other hand, operate mostly in the open and expect fear to keep one's neighbors from doing anything. Either way, the faith's main focus is taking the hypocrite, someone who believes in righteousness and faith, and be shown the cruelty of the truth to the world until they admit brokenly to be just as bad as the masters, the priestess of Gyronna, are happy to be. That said, the more one is a priestess of Gyronna, the less they can stand up people, and in the end everyone will inevitably withdraw themselves into the forest or manor, locking themselves away from the disgusting world. Which brings us to side tangent 2, where we take a closer look at patrons. Patrons are those who give witches their powers. Though they are shadowy figures, many of them are in fact more neutral. Some good deities give powers to white witches to heal, and some fiends sign infernal contracts in order to spread the influence of the evil planes. Some come from aeons working to have agents to keep the balance, while others are given powers to amuse the Fae. Some gain powers on behalf of nature to protect it, while others are called by human collective unconsciousness to fulfill the people's wishes. Some are called from beyond the stars, and some even more from the depths of the shadow planes. And some, whether regular hags or a hag goddess, give chosen daughters powers to tempt them further with the call. When you hear the call of patron, it can mean anything. Because of the secretiveness of the faith, large temples to Gyronna are rare. Instead, the faithful claim sites of natural beauty, which are hidden from the general populace, and created tablet stones with one painted like the Angry Hag's eye on top. Places dedicated to Gyronna tend to attract poisonous creatures and give off an ominous aurora. Gyronna's followers also build their territories in urban areas, marking them with 3 intersecting rings as a warning. This mostly tells other Gyronnans there is already someone who has claimed the area, but they consider any who approach have known better, and they are given no forgiveness. Gyronna's realm is found in the Abyss, the forest of Moravelor. Forever shrouded in midnight, the forest gives a claustrophobic feeling and is filled with beasts like frogs and stray cats. This area is ruled by one of Gyronna's servitors, the hags and humans chosen to personally be adopted by the Angry Hag. Always numbered 13 sets of 13, for a new one to take the place a piece of Moravella for themselves, they need to kill and eat the liver of someone who already holds the position. Now, side tangent 3, we are dealing with the goddess of spite, so this is a good time to look at a corruption. Specifically, the accursed. One who is cursed has wronged a hag, witch, god, fae, genie, or div. And that creature decided to show you firsthand how much of an effort the slightest slight should be punished. This drives you away from others around you, seeing and remembering everything which is done against you, whether purposely or not, severe or benign, and driving you to retaliate against others. And as you do, they slowly take the form of the kind of creature that cursed you. The only way to break the curse is to kill or want forgiveness from the one who laid the curse, which, considering some of the options, might be easier said than done. Now for the general facts of the faith. Gyronna is virtually unheard of outside of the river kingdoms, but a few places along Lake Incarton do have small circles of followers. Her followers meet on the nights of the new moon, when no one can see what they do, but especially holy to them is Blight Mother's Eve, the year's last new moon. On this night, they do whatever they want to appease the Angry Hag, hoping that she will have more patience with them the coming year. Gyronna's faith is more word of mouth than having specific holy text. Many priestesses, however, carry black ledgers to record everything from dreams to the identity of other worshippers to the names and evils done by one's enemies. The most famous is the Black Ledger of Macy Swain, a witch who needed to be poisoned, hanged, disemboweled, drowned, beheaded, and buried to finally execute her. And in the end, her head was still screaming curses as they laid the dirt. For other relationships, we have already talked about the daughters of Gyronna above and their role in Moravelor. For other servitors, we have Nivus, who was once a Kelid witch, Morganala, with a Shivanshi familiar. When the goddess's influence caused the witch to be burned at the stake, she combined both master and familiar into one being who works as Gyronna's messenger. And her herald is Hebdank, the only one who of the first of the Angry Hag's 7 children, who was hideous instead of unnaturally beautiful. This has earned her a position of the only child her mother loves, and was gifted with the powers to twist the flesh of others. As for relationships of other deities, she is connected close with the worship of Loremaster in the area, with them sometimes found in the same cults. As a resident of the River Kingdom, she also is closely connected to Hanspur's worship, and her followers will ignore his. As for enemies, well, she tries to get her followers to undermine all faiths, but she is strongly against Pharasma and the demon lord Mestema. Before we end off, we have one more witch to look at. Side Tangent 4, Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga is actually from our world. Was a young girl who, when she accidentally stumbled upon the secrets of magic, she left her whole life behind and started traveling the universe, attaching herself to various planets through the use of a magic hut. Mostly not planes, though. Outside of the Three-Tenths Kingdom of the First World, she tries to stay out of divine politics. However, when the gods abandoned Earth, she did too, and mostly settled on Galarian. Even now she visits the planet regularly to keep tabs on it, but mostly lives unbound from the world, unlike a certain goddess we have been speaking of. Which brings us to the end of today's episode. If there is one deity we know is not likely to be involved in a war of the immortals, Gyronna is definitely one of them. But that is something to worry about next year. Coming to the end of this year, next week we have a date. Several of them. See you then.